Let me repeat that question so you're all clear. Does eating after 6 p.m. cause weight gain? A couple of years ago I stopped eating after 6 and it definitely worked for me. Okay, that is one of the most common things I've heard over the years. It's an old myth, the old stop eating after 6 and whatever. This is very simple, guys, and it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It's as simple as you make it. What's the bottom line with weight loss? I drive this home all the time. The bottom line with weight loss is calorie deficit. It's calories in versus calories out. So this person that sent this question in possibly did lose weight before when they weren't eating after 6 o'clock, but it's not because of the time they stopped eating. It's because they took in less calories, okay? So your calories over the whole course of the day is what you're looking at. So if you're going to consume 1,500 calories, it doesn't really matter if they're all consumed during the day or if it's kind of all coming in the evening and not much during the day. It's still 1,500 is 1,500. So it's the numbers you're taking in as opposed to the time. The reason this person probably lost weight and they stopped eating after 6 is just because they didn't consume as many calories over the course of a day. Whereas previously they were probably eating right through the day and then they were still eating right after 6 as well. So think about it logically. They've consumed an awful lot more calories over the course of that day than what they were doing when they stopped eating at 6. But it's not a magic time, it's not a magic number. I think sometimes people have this idea in their head that, you know, a product that's 300 calories at 5:59 p.m. suddenly turns into 450 calories at 6 p.m. It doesn't work like that. It's still 300 calories is 300 calories, whether it's consumed at 5 p.m. or it's consumed at 7 p.m. So what you need to look at is your overall calories for the day. It's not the timing of it as such that's making that difference. So yeah, you might lose weight after, you know, if you stop eating after 6, but it's more so because you're consuming less calories. One thing I would say on this, what I find with a lot of people is they tell me my problem time is the evening time. And that kind of is true in a way, but when you delve a little bit deeper on it, the vast majority of the time, the result of it is in the evening, but the actual problem is in the day. Typically people are too restrictive during the day. They're trying to be good. And then evening time comes, and this is what they identify as their problem, but evening time comes and they overeat. So while they're cooking a meal, they're picking up bits and pieces, then they have their meal, then they sit down and watch 3 hours of soaps and they're munching at bits and pieces as well, and they tell me that's the problem time. In actual fact, if they had been fueling themselves a little bit better during the day and they were keeping things nice and steady, slow, small meals often, they're probably going to be in a lot better position come evening time where they won't have the cravings, they won't be overeating, they won't be starving. So it's more about looking at the overall picture as opposed to just that one kind of time period, if that makes sense. One thing I would definitely look at with the whole 6 p.m. thing is that most people do tend to, well, typically a lot of the clients that do come to me, they are overeating in the evening time. So if you can find a distraction so that you're not going to sit down and watch television for 3 hours while eating, think about maybe doing a little bit of training. In this sort of weather, maybe it's going for a walk. I'm doing HIIT sessions with people 3 times a week at 7 o'clock online. So we're actually taking them away from that habit of sitting down, watching television, not moving, eating food. And then on the flip side of it, they're getting exercising. So now, not only are they not taking in the calories through food, they're actually burning calories as well because they're moving. So it's making more productive use of your evening. So that's just one thing I would say on the old 6 p.m. myth. It's not some magic thing that just you're going to lose weight if you don't eat after 6. It's because you're consuming less calories. So look at the overall day. I eat after 6 myself. I have no problem at all eating after 6, but my calories for the whole day are in check. That's what I'm looking at. Okay. Now I would say to you as well, I wouldn't eat massive meals late at night. And it's not really a weight loss thing as such, but it's more from the perspective of you're probably not going to sleep as well. If you consume a massive meal or you're eating really close to bedtime, digestive system is working overtime while it should be, your body should be kind of slowing down and getting a bit of recovery time. So from that perspective, I wouldn't eat massive meals. Okay, here's something coming in. Does it matter if you have meal first thing in the morning? Before meal 1 2, or do you have the meal strategically planned as meal 1 to kickstart metabolism? I'm going to drop you a private message on that, Lorna. Lorna's one of my clients. So I'm going to drop you a private message on that and we will sort that out. But mostly it's about good foods. So it's not really making a huge difference if you're swapping them around, but it's just that you're getting good foods in. Good foods replacing good foods, not swapping in something completely off the radar. Okay. Are we alright, guys? Are you okay? Is the 6 p.m. thing making sense to you? Yeah? All's good. Can I keep going? Stop me if you need to, guys. Stop me if you need to. I'm going to be flying through loads here, but I will slow down if you have anything you need clarification on. It's so hard speaking to yourself on Facebook Live, seeing yourself on camera, no audience in front. Okay, so that was our first question. Question 2, this is one that comes up the whole time as well, is eating out at weekends. Nobody's doing it at the moment, but it is one that comes over time and time again. So I'm going to cover it this evening because I know there's going to be loads of people watching that have this question because I'm always answering it. So I had a conversation with somebody last week who's one of my clients, and it was her birthday at the weekend. So that was kind of why this is in my head. She was saying, you know, she's been doing really well, she's made a lot of progress, and then it's typically this thing where she gets concerned about, am I going to go out of the weekend and undo everything I've done? How am I going to handle that? So the number one thing I would say to you is, if you're eating out at weekends, or you've got a birthday party, or you've got a wedding, or whatever it is, enjoy it. Just enjoy it. I mean, it's not going to be every weekend, hopefully. If it is every weekend, that's a whole different conversation. But for me personally, I don't eat out very often, so when I do, I'm of the mindset that it's there to be enjoyed. Life is too short. I'm going to be having dessert if I'm going out eating. That's the reality of it. It's that simple. Now, I will say, for people like that client who have been making progress and kind of want to, I suppose, keep some bit of discipline in there and do kind of want to not go overboard on it, there's a few things you can do. Personally speaking, again, if I know I'm going to be eating out on a Saturday night, for example, I will make sure that training week is good. Like, I'm going to be training hard Monday to Friday. And then the other thing is that we're getting right back on track afterwards. So weddings are one that throws people off a lot. If they have a wedding on a Saturday, very, very often that Saturday turns into a whole week because they start feeling sorry for themselves the next day. They're a little bit hungover. Food choices tend to go downhill. They're still feeling sluggish on Monday, so they decide to give themselves the day off for training. Before you know it, there's a week gone and they're struggling to get back on track. So I would say to you, just make a little deal with yourself that if it's a wedding, for example, on Monday, I'm back on it. I'm back training and I'm back on eating good, healthy foods, and that's it. Make that little deal with yourself. Have a date in your mind, get it nailed down, and you'll be fine. So again, going back to this thing of whatever it is at the weekend, whether it's eating out or whether it's a birthday, one of the other things I would do is plan a couple of days in advance. So if you know you're going to be eating out on that Saturday night, one of the things I would always do for maybe 2-3 days beforehand is bring the calories down a little bit. So what I'll do there is I'll usually just maybe eat one snack less per day. So it's nothing major, it's not drastic, it's not anything I'd even notice, but maybe I'm saving 200-300 calories a day. And then when that Saturday evening comes, I've got a little bit more in the bank and I'm going to go and spend that bit of cash that I've got in the bank on dessert. Does that make sense? So it's just balancing out the calories again over the course of a week. So this is why I keep saying to you, you need to look at the bigger picture all the time, not just looking at things in isolation and thinking, well, it's just that one day, so it's just Saturday and that's the day you're going to worry about it. If that's the way you approach it, you're probably not going to give it much thought and your calories are going to shoot up. But again, look, I have no problem with that if it's a case that you're only eating out now and again anyway, just enjoy it, all right? But for those people who are training hard, that want to be a little bit stricter, there's a couple of tips for you. All right. Anything else, guys? Let me get some water, throw up some questions if you have anything else you need to know. Give me a little breather for a second. Any questions, guys? Throw them up. It's great to see people still making progress, even with the lockdown. It's just been amazing. Like, I've got online clients working with me all the time now, and I was worried. I was kind of thinking this could go either way. I think 99% of people are going to be coming out of this thing heavier. It's been amazing, just the clients. We've kind of just had chats, kept them focused, kept them on track, and they're still making incredible progress. So it's just really, really good to see. It is possible, is the message. If anybody wants to kind of kick on with their journeys, lockdown can be used as an excuse, or you can just keep going. It's definitely possible. Any questions there, or will I move on? I'm going to keep going then. You're all very quiet. I'm hoping you're taking something in. So question number 3 then, I'm going to get on to. I'm flying through this evening. Question number 3 is a little bit different. What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've made in the past year? What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've made in the past year? This is going to sound a little bit daft, but I would say to you, one of the best investments I've made in the past year is the tripod that my phone is sitting on there right now. I swear to God, it has made life so much easier for me. It really has, because before this, you're holding up the phone trying to talk into it, or you're leaning it against something, and I think if you've got the right tools for your job, it makes life an awful lot easier. It doesn't have to be expensive. That tripod cost me €27 and it was the best business investment I made last year. It's made life so much easier for me. So give yourself the tools, and it doesn't have to be always the big elaborate spending that does the good thing. That one is it for me. But there's also a couple of things, like in general, I'm kind of a minimalist anyway. I'm not one for out splashing cash and collecting loads of, I suppose, what would you call them? Things that, you know, you don't really need. That wouldn't be for me. It's material stuff I'm not big on. I don't buy a huge amount of clothes. I don't buy a huge amount of different stuff like that. It just doesn't really interest me. I have what I need and that's it. But what I would say as well that I think has been a great investment for me, that I kind of look on as an investment actually, is holidays. I go to the sun probably twice a year normally twice, definitely once, but normally twice. And I look at that as an investment because that brings the best out of me for my work and for my clients. When I can get away and I can recover and I don't have to speak to anybody for a week, you know, if I'm away in holidays with somebody, that's it. That's the only people I speak to. Whereas when I'm here, I'm always on. And if I'm still at home, if I'm still in Sligo, even if I take a week off, I never am off. The phone will always be ringing. There'll always be somebody on social media contacting me. So I go away and I just get away once or twice a year. Costs me a bit of money, but it is so worth it because I always find when I'm refreshed, I start coming up with new ideas as well. And I actually get such an overview of my business when I'm not in the environment. It's almost like, it's nearly like getting up in a plane and getting to look down on it. And when you're on the ground level, you can't see it. But when you're up there and you just take that time away, you can go, how did I not see that before? Oh, that's not working, but this is working. So, you know, I always come up with new ideas and refresh when I'm away. So that is something I would consider to be a good investment, is to take time away from yourself. I'm not saying you have to go off the sun, but sometimes even just a couple of days away on your own, it can do wonders, you know. So that's something I would consider an investment. My biggest investments probably are not financial investments. I would consider my biggest investments to be time investments. I invest my time in stuff that's going to move me forward and that's going to bring value to my clients, and it's going to, I suppose, bring value to my business as well. I mentioned it last week, reading books. I invest an awful lot of time in learning. So I invest a lot of time in reading books, audiobooks, podcasts. That's every day. That's every day of the week. And it's probably 365 days a year, to be honest. So that's where I would consider my investment goes. It's more so time investments rather than financial investments. So yeah, definitely it's reading books. Another thing I would invest a lot of time in is social media. You've probably seen it if you're following me for a while. I do an awful lot of work on social media. I put huge amounts of time into it. Like, you put up a post and people think it's just something you just bash up there within 5 minutes. Some of the stuff that goes up there I could be working on for an hour at a time, you know, and you're possibly putting out 2-3 pieces of content a day. Then you're doing live workouts, you're doing live Q&As, you're constantly getting back to private messages, you're constantly getting back to emails, you're preparing content for the next day. So there's a huge time investment for me there as well. But it does work for me because I've pretty much got an online business now, you know, and I put all that time into it, but it does come back to me. The courses are always booked out now, you know, and that's only because I'm on social media every day. If I decided to abandon it and only advertise whenever I have a course coming up, there'd be nobody on them. So it's that time investment really is probably where my biggest investments are, as opposed to financial investments. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Yeah. Same with the books and getting time away to refresh. Ah, yeah, look, it makes the world a difference. It really does. And if you want to move yourself forward in any area, I do think learning and figuring out the people that have done what you want to do, study them. Success leaves clues, study them, and there's always going to be stuff that's going to move you forward. It's amazing because I think sometimes people get so bogged down in thinking that they have to spend money on courses, or they have to get certs, or they have to get qualifications, or they have to get degrees. You need your basic qualifications for anything, of course you do. But for me, the real learning is actually in the free stuff. It's in the books. And like, if you ask me who's the biggest influence in my career, there's always people like your parents. But outside of that, it's people that I've never met. It's books. It's people I've studied. They don't even know they've had an influence on me, but that's what moves you forward. Okay, so that's my investment. Okay, will I move on? A little bit different from the fitness talk. Next question. Another bit of a different one. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say? Oh man, if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say? I'll tell you what, if we're going to talk weight loss, if that was what I was advertising, my billboard would say calorie deficit. It's that simple. That's what it would say. Calorie deficit, it's that simple. Because people love to overcomplicate things. But that is ultimately what it comes back to. If you want to do weight loss, it's calorie deficit. Simple as. But people think that that's too simple, and they want to hear something sophisticated and exotic and something that sounds really complicated because they're spending their money on it. So they want to go back and tell all their friends about this big fancy complicated formula that they used. You know what? Calorie deficit is what it boils down to. That's always the long and short of it. I'm swerving. Sorry, I tripped myself up there. What can I have to ease the cravings? Also, can I have a cup of tea? Yeah, have your cup of tea. Of course you can. What can I have to ease cravings? It depends what you're craving. If there's a lot of sugar, I would be kind of saying to you, again, there's a lot of people that typically consume a lot of added sugars and they're eating them every day throughout the day. If you're that sort of person, I would say maybe go for high sugar fruits to wean yourself off it. So the likes of bananas and grapes are a fantastic option. Dark chocolate is pretty good. A square or two of dark chocolate goes a long way to killing cravings, rather than milk chocolate where you'll tend to have the whole bar and then you'll have another bar if you can as well. So stuff like that works well. I also use what I call the 20-minute rule sometimes with people, where I'll say, if you're craving something, down a pint of water, wait for 20 minutes, and then if you still want it, you can have it. The vast majority of the time that craving is gone after 20 minutes. So there's a couple of little tips for you. I'm going to come back to that question in a second, Breda. Let me just finish on my gigantic billboard question. So that's what I would say. I would say calorie deficit if I was putting on a billboard. But again, this is not where you were probably expecting me to go with this, but from a business perspective, I don't know if billboards are actually even worth spending money on anymore, to be honest with you. There was a time they were probably the be all and end all, but right now I would say, sorry, I'm just going to get the question before it disappears, sorry. Is stretching enough of a warm up beforehand, or should you do a bit of cardio too? Yeah, thanks. I guess that's a second break. I just want to put it into there. So yeah, with the billboards, I don't know if they're even worth money anymore, to be honest with you, because the world has changed. There was a time they would have been the greatest investment ever, having this huge billboard up and everybody looking at it. Now I think it's a little bit differently. Think about people driving, like, they're not even looking at the road anymore, never mind the billboard. They're down there on their phones, you know, so I don't think it's a great investment. Billboards and stuff like that, advertising has changed. I would definitely say, for myself personally, and probably for a lot of the younger generational businesses now, social media is where it's at. Like, think about where the eyeballs are. If you're a marketing person here, if you have a business to advertise, think about where the eyeballs are. 99% of the time it's down there. It's in that phone, it's in their hands all the time. I don't use newspapers, I don't use radio. I do radio interviews from time to time, but I don't pay for advertising or anything like that. If somebody asks me to come on, I'll talk, but I don't use advertising in that regard at all, because, you know, my target market is social media. Everybody's on social media. All the people I'm targeting are on there. So it makes more sense for me to pay for Facebook advertising, pay for Instagram advertising, put out good content, bring value to people. That's what's going to work for me, rather than paying for billboards or paying for radio or paying for newspapers. So I hope that makes sense. Right, Breda, let's take your question. So Breda was just asking me there, Breda was asking about HIIT sessions. Is it enough to just do stretching? I don't think it's probably enough to just do stretching for any kind of a workout, really, Breda. What I would say there is, you want to get the body and the mind ready to train. So you're getting your body warmed up, you're getting the blood flowing. Do a little bit of cardio stuff, even if it's thrown in the likes of star jumps or a wee skipping rope or just knees up or, you know, like skis or whatever. Mix them in, because all you're doing is just giving that brain a signal that it's about to start doing something. So it's getting the body into motion. If you go in cold, it's horrible. It's hard to get to the flow of it. So I definitely will get the heart rate up a little bit, not through the roof, but just a little bit. And then you're a lot more comfortable when you do start into your HIIT session properly. So I hope that helps. Keith, some great tips in there about cravings. Cheers, Keith. Yeah, I hope it helps. Any other questions, shoot them up, guys. I think I have one or two more here to finish, and then I'm getting out in the backyard and training. My backyard turned into a gym. Rescued all my equipment from where it was stored, so now I'm lifting weights every day and I'm loving it. It's cheers, Breda. It is amazing how strong you are when you're training all the time. You don't realise it. I've only really had such an awakening since there was 2 months I couldn't train because we went into lockdown, and all my equipment, my weights and my bars and my dumbbells and my kettlebells, they were all locked away where I run the classes and I couldn't get my hands on them. So for 2 months I was doing all bodyweight stuff, which was great. It was challenging me in a different way and I was responding to it. The body was kind of, you know, it was responding, it was going well. But I was missing my weights so much. So last week I managed to rescue them. I got in, there was nobody, you know, I contacted the guy who owns the facility or runs the facility. I said to him, just leave the doors open for me, I'll go in and get the gear myself. So that's what I did. I have everything back in the garden now. I've turned it into a gym, so I've been lifting heavy again the last couple of weeks. And I swear to God, I have never felt pain from lifting weights like that since I was about 17, because I've been just constantly lifting weights all the time. It's only when you stop and then you start in again. I wasn't able to lift as heavy, but even the next day I was so sore. Whereas when I'm training all the time, I'm just cruising through it. You don't realise how strong you are until you stop, and then you go, how did it come to this? But anyway, yeah, it's good to be back lifting. That's a little side story. So I'm ready nearly to finish up, guys. So if you have any questions, will you just shoot them up, because I think I've only one left here. So if you have any more, drop them up. Right. Question number 6. This was actually just a conversation I had with somebody about 10 minutes before I came on air, so it's still a little bit fresh. Low impact cardio exercise other than cycling. Question from my husband who has bad knees. Walking for too long is hard on him too. Okay. Bad knees. So effectively what we're looking at here is non-weight bearing activity. That's, again, for anybody that has joint problems or anything like that, that's probably the way to go. So cycling is the ideal one. I did get back to her on this to get a bit more information. The problem with cycling is just that he's bored, so he's only looking for a bit of variety. So it's not that he's ruling out cycling. Cycling is fantastic. Cycling is probably your best option there, because what you want if you have knee problems or joint problems like that is to take the weight off them. So if you're walking, if you're pounding, for example, you're going to feel that pain. It's that impact against the ground that's going to do that to you. So you need to think about how you can reduce that. So obviously cycling, you're not in direct contact with the ground, so there's no pounding against those knees. Another really good one is swimming. Swimming works really, really well. I don't think the pools are open yet, but as far as I know, they're due to come back before the gyms. I don't know how or why, but I think they've got permission and the gyms haven't. Don't ask me. So I think that is on the way. So swimming is a good one. And the third one then is the likes of a cross trainer. So again, it's very gentle. There's no pounding on your knees, on your joints. That works quite well. All I'm going to say to you on this, guys, don't panic because we're in lockdown and go out and buy a cross trainer or a treadmill. I always get asked by people, should I buy a cross trainer or should I buy a treadmill? Which would be better? And I say to them, don't buy either, because genuinely 95% of the time that cross trainer ends up as a clothes hanger. It won't be used. It won't. Like, you'll use it for 2 weeks and then it'll be left there because there's too many distractions around the house. I just find people don't need it. To get into the headspace even to train properly, I think most people nearly need to go somewhere or need to just have people around them and less distractions. So maybe you're somebody who's incredibly disciplined and you'll use it, but if you're not, I would say don't panic buy and go out and buy a treadmill or a cross trainer, because you're going to spend about €2,000 on it. You're going to use it for 2 weeks and then it's going to be left in the garage, or it's going to be just left there in the spare room with clothes hanging off it. So that would be a little piece of advice I give you just from experience. I haven't done it myself, but I know people that have done it, so just sharing that with you. I'm nearly ready to wrap it up, guys. I'm nearly ready. If you have any questions, will you just throw them up there, because I'm done with my questions here. The plan now for the evening is to get off Facebook, get out into the backyard, lift a few weights, and then I'm going to go for a walk. I'm actually in a little routine. I've been walking every night now. It's lovely. My steps are up about 15,000 at the minute. It's one positive of this lockdown. I'm walking like there's no tomorrow. I'm sure a few of you are in the same boat. It looks like we're done. Are we? Are we done? Any questions? You've got about 30 seconds, guys, and then I'm going to log off. If you have any questions, anything you want answered, shoot them up. If there's anything I can help you with, guys, don't hesitate to get in touch. That is what I'm here for, so don't be on your own. I know it's hard when you can't get to the gym and you can't get to classes and whatever, but don't feel like you're on your own. If you need help, get in touch with me. And it's more important than ever at the minute to stay active. One of the major concerns I had with lockdown was the mental health issues that are going to be around it. Cheers, Aubrey. Just the mental health issues that are going to be around it. And it's something I'm still concerned about, because I find, especially people that are living on their own, for example, I think there's probably a huge isolation element there. Mental health. I was speaking to a doctor friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and she said she's already been referring people to counsellors and to psychotherapists. So that's something I will be a little bit concerned about. And even going forward, I think we're probably going to be heading straight into recession now. There's going to be job losses and stuff like that as well. If that's coming on top of a period of lockdown where people have been maybe isolated for a long, long time, mental health issues could be on the rise. So all I'm going to say to you this evening is reach out to people, chat to people, anybody, maybe family, friends. It can be me if I can help you in any way. It can be, you know, we've seen all the great work Peter House are doing the Darkness into Light the weekends. There's loads of people out there to talk to. So if you're struggling, reach out to somebody, because it is an incredibly difficult time for a lot of people. I'm aware of that. So that is something maybe I'll just finish on this evening. All right, good. Guys, the Facebook Live happens every Wednesday at 7. We have different questions every week. We've about 4 or 5 weeks done at this stage. They've been very popular. Hopefully during the winter the numbers will go up even more when people are not out in the sun. But yeah, that's it. Jump on with us each week and have a chat and a bit of fun and a bit of variety. Do you know what? I get more nervous about this than I do going on stage. It's so hard. It's so weird talking into a camera, talking to yourself. But yeah, I think that's it, guys.